John Clayton.
E.B. Moss.
How long have I known you?
Let's see. How old am I
don't
now?
say.
Don't say. No.
No.
That's embarrassing.
We were mere children.
Yeah, one of us was.
And I pulled a prank on you because
I hate you.
I know. You were playing with the Monty Alexander trio somewhere in the Midwest.
No, it was in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Okay. See, this is, we have selective recall. But the point is, you were already becoming a known musician, and my sister Lisa knew you from the D.C. area, put me up to a prank to pretend that we had had a tryst and you'd forgotten all about me.
Oh, I hate you.
Yeah.
I think back on that. You walk, John, it's so good to see you again.
And you're like,
you promised
what?
you'd. I was like, what? I'm just sort of Rolodexing, right?
Yep.
Who is this woman? Did I own?
And then I brought you over, and my sister was sitting there laughing.
I was so mad.
I know. And from there, the rest was history, as they say.
Yeah.
You went on to fame and fortune, and I went on to podcasting.
That's fame and fortune. Well, it's fame.
Well,
Maybe it's fortune, too. I hope.
after this episode,
Aw.
yeah. I really don't even know where to start about John Clayton. How about these names? Paul McCartney, Diana Krall, Milt Jackson, Gladys Knight. How about Queen Latifah? Those are just a few of the names that he's written for or recorded, produced, protege of Ray Brown. And then there's Count Basie when he played in his orchestra, and his own Clayton-Hamilton Jazz Orchestra. John is a dear friend, and it's such a pleasure for me to have him on It's Quite a Living, episode 9, because John always makes sure that the people around him feel like they're living quite the life. Recognize this theme song? That's from my other podcast, Insider Interviews with E.B. Moss. John composed and performed that for me. He really is a remarkable friend, a great husband, great dad, father to Gina, who does amazing pro-social work. His son, Gerald Clayton, is a world-class pianist himself. I just can't wait for you to hear his insights about jazz, about respect for the audience and respect for musicians themselves. It's a wonderful, spontaneous conversation with a wonderful person, John Clayton. So good to see you on It's Quite a Living.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And it is quite a living.
It is.
Yeah. So I want to talk all about that. Truly, I'm just going to let you, as they say in jazz terms, riff. Will you explain who you are, what you are, why you are? Yeah.
But this is our hang. This isn't my hang. This is our hang. So riff is not somebody just doing a solo thing.
Don't be humble. This is all about JC.
I mean, I'll talk a little bit about myself. Let's see. I grew up in Venice, California. It's a Los Angeles area. I am the oldest of 7. My mom definitely has a sense of humor because she named all of us with the first initial J. So in our house, it was Johnny, Jeffrey, Janine, Joseph, Jerome, Jennifer, Joy.
Oh, my.
In my house, it was not unusual on a daily basis to hear my mom say, boy, put that down. So I discovered, no, I take that back. The bass discovered me at age 13. I was in a junior high school band room deciding what I wanted to do. And the director said, what do you want to play? I said, how about that big thing over there? And he said, sure. He wrote down my name and wrote after it, tuba. And as I was walking out of the room, I saw these 4 gorgeous brown things standing in the corner. And I went, can I play that instead? And he said, sure. And I like to say he crossed off tuba and wrote down my destiny.
Oh, so I love that.
That's kind of how it worked. And the great drummer Billy Higgins used to say, you don't choose the instrument, it chooses you.
Yeah.
And that was definitely, I didn't even know what it sounded like, but something was beckoning me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's also like the whole being on a spiritual path where the book jumps off the shelf at you, that kind of same thing.
All those things, and not at all an accident, because the bass is my voice. It really has outlined my outlooks on life, religion, sex, politics, the whole 9 yards, along with me falling in love with its sound, also understanding my role in a group. The bass player is that person that's the, quote, foundation of the group. You're the person that not only has to supply the vocalist with the notes that she needs to hear to get herself set on track, but you also have to link up with the drummer to make sure that the groove is, so you're always in the middle. And that's not just a musical responsibility, it's also something that reflects your life. And I am that kind of person. I don't know if I was that kind of a person before the bass discovered me or not, but I'm definitely that kind of person. I'm the guy between the drum ego and the trumpet ego.
Yeah. You're part of the rhythm section, you're part of the, instrumental, the whole string, everything.
Exactly.
When I was first getting to know you, you have an album that has a song called Walkin' Bass on it. And that was always one of my favorites. And it sounds sort of like your relationship with the bass, because in it, I'm going to do my best John Clayton now. Come on, bass, let's start walking.
C plus.
Okay. Tell him what I'm missing, Johnny.
Take it away. No, you know what? It is kind of, that song was written by Keeter Betts, who coincidentally lived in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Yep.
And it's a song about, as you kind of hint at, a relationship between me, the player, and the instrument.
My team was losing,
so I am the voice of the instrument, kind of going through relationship stuff and whatever, life.
I could hardly even talk. So I got my bass and we went for a walk. We started walking.
And I don't know if it's a completely autobiographical song, but it is truly a kind of a fun look at what the bass represents to me.
Yeah.
And in fact, so Keeter Betts was a bass player who played with Ella Fitzgerald. And one day we were touring together and he said, "Hey, I got a song for you. I want to play this for you." So he played walking bass for me. I said, "Oh God, I loved it. Would you mind doing it again?"
Every last one says, "Can I pluck that bass?" And I said, No.
Recorded on
just keep walking.
cassette recorder. And so I did, and then he allowed me to record it. So he never got around to recording it himself. And he even talked about a sequel, which he didn't write, which would be where a bass has a relationship with a violin, and somehow they produce cellos. I don't know, but he was fun. So yeah, that was a really important, fun song for me.
Yeah, and speaking of Ella Fitzgerald, you know this about me, and we'll talk about this in a minute, that I fancy myself a jazz singer.
I do know that.
I sang in
You are.
a bunch of bands. Thank you very much. So I did the spectrum of the Joni Mitchell era folk rock, Bonnie Raitt, kind of blues rock, and then I moved over into jazz. And through it all, Ella was just my goddess. And I had the opportunity to interview her when I was a cub reporter, maybe still in college or just out of college. And then the other goddess to me was Sarah Vaughan. And you enabled me to meet her. So that was just like two remarkable experiences, but it's just testament to the level of people that you hang with, you play with, you have enabled me to meet. I mean, it's really been quite a living, John.
Well, thank you. When people in your life touch you in a way that's very sincere and very deep, you don't keep that sort of isolated. You allow that to expand in important ways. And me understanding how much you love this music and how important it was to you, and then finding out that you love Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan. Of course, if I had the chance, you versus someone else who might be less sincere about somebody like Sarah Vaughan, I'm not going to be really interested in introducing them to Sassy if I have the chance. But it's you've always been, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You've been very open your whole life, which made it easy for that kind of thing to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'll give you even more credit because, leading from me being an aspiring vocalist, what have you, one of the things that I noticed about you first, and you've never not done, is the joie de vivre, the joy that you express every single performance. John, you have just a glow and a smile about you every time you're up there playing, no matter the gig. And I talked to you about that, and you actually wrote me an incredible letter back a million years ago, and you talked about it almost being like making love to the audience and giving the gift that you just sort of described, because it comes from your heart, your soul.
Yeah.
I know you coach a lot of students. How do you express that to them?
Well, one thing that has evolved in me is an understanding that more than making love to the audience, it's embracing the music, making the music with your friends, and presenting it to an audience. So I don't play music for an audience anymore, if I ever did. I play music for the sake of expression, often with my friends, and then we present that to an audience. And the reason I do that, the reason I have evolved into that understanding, is because we're artists and we need to express. And the audience should not affect our choice of expression. Obviously, people give energy, and we're affected by that energy, but that energy shouldn't be the thing, or an audience should not be the reason why I choose to play the songs I play. For instance, Diana Krall, she had a hit with that "Peel Me a Grape" song, for instance. Now, having worked with her, known her for so long, I watched her go through deciding that she really needed to move on from "Peel Me a Grape." So think about that audience member who, this couple gets a babysitter, and they have to put gas in the car, and they go to the venue, and they have to get tickets. And on the way, they're really excited. God, Diana Krall, I hope she does my favorite song, "Peel Me a Grape." And they do the parking, they find their seats. At the end of the show, they're going home in their car, and one of them might say, God, great show. She didn't do "Peel Me a Grape," but did you hear that new thing that she did? Wasn't that cool?
Yeah.
So audiences, by and large, are open. They're going to hope that they get to hear some of their favorite songs.
Yep.
But especially in the jazz world, it's not like in other genres where, damn it, if you don't do that song, they're going to be pissed off.
Hit.
Where's my hit? I paid my money. I want to hear my hit. It's not like that. And I feel a little bit sorry for people that are, maybe that's a little strong, feeling sorry, but they might be kind of a little bit prisoner of their success. And what happens when you're that kind of an artist, you don't stop being an artist. You don't stop being a creative artist. You find other outlets for that creativity. But when you're having to do that show, and hopefully it's not boring to you, you're still, into it and all that. But going back to the "Peel Me a Grape" thing, from a Diana Krall perspective, then she had to go through all of that, I won't call it anguish, all of that exploring, how do I feel about this? I really understand that people supported me, they paid for the records and the tickets and all that, and I feel obligated. On the other hand, I want to move on, and at some point, then they decide, okay, I really have to move on. Seeing that really kind of turned on a light bulb for me, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to put myself through that. Or I understand now that she loves the music and she loves presenting. We love presenting this music to an audience. That's what it's about. So I know that you have, and I have as well, heard those concerts where somebody comes out and does a song that they feel or know the audience wants to hear, but their heart's not in it 100%.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I'd rather hear that song maybe that I don't know that you are so excited about.
Yeah.
Share that with me.
You know, I saw an artist who you know do a performance a few weeks back, and I know this person's music and I liked it well enough, but I didn't love the way the artist didn't stick to the melody, so I couldn't quite relate to a favorite song quite as much. And I told you about it, and you understood my point of view, but you gave grace to that person and space. And what you said back to me was that this artist was expressing him or herself in a particular way, and you encouraged that exploration, and that was what this person was doing at the time. And that artist will find his or her way, and that's part of the path. Did I kind of express that right?
You did. In fact, you and I both, and I think most people, as we grow as human beings, experience the feeling of revisiting something, a song, a book, whatever, that suddenly makes us go, wow, why didn't I hear this the first time?
Yeah.
You know, I was that way with Duke Ellington. When I first heard it, I thought, why are people so excited about this guy? It sounds sloppy to me. It sounds out of tune. I mean, what?
Really?
Yeah. And I thought, I don't get it. But then I got it eventually. And it changed my life. And he became the one single most composer to influence me in my life. So, and think about that as a performer. If you sing, understand that you are affecting people, and you don't know how you're affecting them, and you don't know whether or not everybody in the audience, or most people in the audience, or just a few, are connecting with your expression. That's not your concern. Because if somebody comes to hear you sing, and the day before they've just lost their dog of 15 years, you know, and now they come hear you sing, and that dark cloud is still in their soul, and they just can't connect with your music on that evening because of their headspace, because of where their soul is. Now they hear you 6 months later, and they go, oh my God, where have you been all my life? I know I heard you before, but you really touched me now. That's just one small example.
Yeah.
So you don't know how, that's why it's not important. It's not your job to be concerned about touching people. It's our job to present our expression to people and share it with them. We hope they connect, but if they don't, that's cool. It would be weird if everybody on the planet loved your song.
Right. Oh, I love that example, John. And, you know, I do have to say, though, that, you know, if you can create a political ballad that did bring people all together, that would be awesome.
I'll do my best.
Okay. I want to fill in some of the blanks, or I don't know, there must be a musical description of what I'm trying to say. Give you some grace notes. I don't know. Of your illustrious path. You know, we dropped a few names along the way, but you've done everything from written the book on big band bass. You have produced so many records or albums, whatever we call them these days, of well-known artists. You mentioned Diana Krall. I know Queen Latifah. I know so many people. And you were the music director of the Hollywood Bowl. I saw you at the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. So fill in a little bit more of those blanks for us, and if you would share some of the things that just completed you in a way.
Well, thank you. I was blessed to have discovered when I just started taking classical lessons at age 16, a recording by Oscar Peterson, the great piano player. Another high school chum said, I got a record you have to hear. So we go to the Venice Library, and he played a track for me called Billy Boy. And it starts out with Oscar Peterson playing this intro. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Ray Brown goes, and I had never heard anything like that in my life. So I freaked out, and in my next classical lesson, I said to the teacher, have you ever heard of this gentleman, Ray Brown? He said, oh yeah, he's a friend of mine. And he took out a letter from Ray Brown that said, Dear Mr. Siegel, would you please tell your students about a class I'm teaching at UCLA called Workshop in Jazz Bass? That was my last classical lesson with that guy.
Oh my God, talk about fate and things jumping off the shelf at you at the time you needed them. Wow.
So I enrolled in the course. It was an extension course, so even though I was in high school, I could take it. I saved $65, got in the course, and that's when my life really began in terms of music and jazz and discovering all that. So I finished the course, and Ray Brown allowed me to follow him around. He saw how green and hungry I was. He said, first thing we have to do is we have to get you another classical teacher. I also played electric bass at the time. He got me lessons with Carol Kay, great electric bass player.
Yeah.
And she, he told her about me being the oldest of 7, single parent family and all that stuff. And she charged me $5 a lesson.
Oh my.
Yeah. She's alive and well to this day, and
explain her famous riff, like the thing she's so well known for.
Actually, a lot of songs
that we don't even realize was her. Yeah.
Because she played with a lot of Motown recordings, Stevie Wonder, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Ray Charles, Quincy Jones, filmmakers like Henry Mancini, gosh, so many stars, Joe Cocker. I mean, it's crazy. Just so many rock stars. And that was your teacher
who charged you $5.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so she was really cool. And so Ray Brown, at some point, I started classical lessons again, and then before moving to Indiana University to study, because I was gigging too much here in LA and I heard this piano player, because it was my dream to play with Oscar Peterson. I fell in love with the records. I knew that Ray Brown wasn't with him anymore, and I was just playing along with the records and learning the songs and all this stuff, transcribing the bass parts, having fun. I didn't know what I was doing, but and I knew that the bass player that Oscar Peterson had wouldn't be with him forever. His name was Niels Henning Orsted Peterson. He was with him forever. So I just thought maybe I'll have a shot. But then I heard this piano player named Monty Alexander here in Los Angeles at a club called Shelley's Manhole with Ray Brown and Milt Jackson. And I forgot about Oscar Peterson. I want to play with that guy. So we met, we jammed one afternoon. He asked me to join his trio. I said I'd love to. I just finished high school. And I'm going to go to college. And he said, oh, well, yeah, how long will that take? I said, 4 years. He said, okay, I'll wait.
Oh.
It took 5 years.
Let me just check something here. Because your mentor, Ray Brown, had the gig, and you kind of got him booted.
No.
Oh, come on. All right.
No.
Help me out here.
No. He had an engagement with Monty Alexander.
Okay.
And that's why I heard, that'd be, I love you. Now get out.
You're cruel.
There's a song called I Told You That I Love You, Now Get Out. Anyway.
Oh, sounds like my dating life. Okay.
Maybe I should head this podcast up. Anyway, I went to Indiana University, stayed in touch with Monty Alexander in the interim, was there 3 years. I met Jeff Hamilton, the drummer. And Jeff and I became best friends. And make the long story a little shorter, when I left Indiana University, I called Monty Alexander. Are you still interested in doing something together? Actually, my bass player is leaving in 2 weeks. Are you available?
Wow. Another fateful moment.
And I said, yes. And he asked, do you know any good drummers?
No.
Jeff Hamilton was on the road with the Tommy Dorsey Band or Lionel Hampton, something. I called him and I said, pack your bags, we're going with Monty Alexander. So 2 weeks later, I was with Monty Alexander.
Wow.
And
2 years later, I think that's how I met you.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
And you and Jeff are still playing together a lot. You had the Clayton-Hamilton Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah.
You just did a trio with him, a lovely, lovely performance that I saw at Dizzy's once again, one of my favorite places to see you. And Jeff also mentors, teaches, is a great drummer, but he taught you a little something about wine.
Damn him.
I love this story, John. I think that you were traveling somewhere and he taught you how to taste for certain elements of wine, right?
Oh, God.
You got to talk about that.
Well, this was back in the day when you could still bring wine on board a plane.
Oh, wait, you can't anymore?
No, I know you do.
Whoops.
I won't give it
Okay.
up. You can,
Okay.
yeah. I can just picture you.
It's less than 2 ounces. Carry on.
I
Okay.
can picture you in your middle seat, with your coat draped over your ear while sipping. Anyway,
Okay.
So we were actually the album Live in Paris by Diana Krall.
Yes.
We were on our way to Paris to do that album, and Anthony Wilson, the great guitar player, and Jeff Hamilton are wine connoisseurs. And I don't drink alcohol, and just never interested. And so we're on the plane, we're in business class, and feeling like this is the good life. And so the flight attendant gets ready to serve us dinner, and they hand over a bottle of two of wine that they want them to open. And Jeff says, Clayton, I know you don't want any of this. And I said, well, why not? And he said, really? I said, yeah, sure. He said, okay, or sure. So he pours me the glass of wine, and he says, okay, now, don't just drink this. Let it rest in your mouth and take a couple of seconds. And he said, but before you swallow it, I want you to think cloves. And I did as he said, and I went, whoa. Yeah, that's it. He said, don't get excited. Take it easy. He said, eat a piece of bread here, a little sip of water, do it again, and this time I want you to think chocolate. And I did it, and I went, whoa! From that point on, I was hooked. So wine to me is about flavors and pairings and all that stuff. So
it also seems so appropriate because, a good blend, right? It's not just one grape.
That's right.
Peel me a grape, right? Oh, sorry. And so we're sitting here actually in your studio, and you showed me how you file your hundreds of compositions and scores and things like that. So if you were to give the elevator pitch size lesson about creating a blend when you're thinking about a composition, when you're thinking about bringing an orchestra together, how do you encourage a blend with an orchestra?
First of all, before I write an arrangement, which is kind of that physical thing that represents the blend, thinking about the blend and working on the blend that you're talking about, first thing up is the mood. What is the mood of the song? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it joyous? Is it exciting? Is it naughty? Is it, just come up with all of the descriptors you can about what the mood represents or moods of the song. And then you look at the choice of where do I want the ear to go? Is it a vocalist who's got a message? Is it a horn soloist who is just blowing their heart out? Where do I want the ear to go? And then how can I enhance that? And then what do I have in my pantry that I can use to enhance that? So, got some violins over here and some trombones over there, and I figure out, if I'm going to enhance EB's singing, and it's this kind of a really beautiful, warm, lush kind of a song, then maybe I can use the mid-register and gorgeous sound of the trombone to sort of underpin her as she gets to that really gorgeous climactic part of the,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I put it together, and I sketch it out. I mean, I've got sketches here that, that I can show you that basically...
This is just audio,
I know
John.
that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Okay.
they can...
Use your imagination.
People they can fantasize. Where are we without
We
fantasy?
do. That's what we do.
That's
when we
it,
sit back
yeah.
and use it. Yeah.
So, I kind of write it out in words, the sketch. At the top of the page, I'll write down the vibe, the words that describe the energy, right? And I'll write those words down. Roman numeral 1 will be the intro. And I might write exciting. And I'm going to go full orchestra, balls out, fortissimo, blah, blah, blah. Roman numeral 2, mellowing down to the vocalist, just piano and vocal. Or, Roman numeral 3, and so on. And just sort of sketch the whole thing out in words.
Wow.
And then I go back and I actually start filling in the notes that I would write.
Mm-hmm.
And in that iteration, I do edits. And I'll go, actually, instead of full-on orchestra intro, maybe I should just have a mellow piano doing it, So I'm allowed to change my mind.
Yeah.
But at least I have some sort of a blueprint that I'm going with initially. Yeah. So I'm not just staring at a blank page and going, okay, what now? And if I'm really lost, then I find a musical example of the vibe that I'm looking to borrow from.
I'll kind of bring this full circle, but been so fortunate to watch you at work. And do you have perfect pitch?
Sometimes it's a little imperfect, but yeah, for
pretty
all
much,
intents and
yeah.
purposes,
Because I think that you were producing some orchestral jazz piece, and I'm sitting in the control room with you, and there's a massive board with 32 channels or whatever, and the musicians are across the glass, and you're hearing it back, and out of all of those pieces, you said, that one horn was playing, I think, an E flat instead of an E. I was like, holy mother. Wow. I mean, you talk about you have great hands, but you have to have great ears and a great heart. And that, I think, is also the blend.
And I would add to that, you have to want it. You have to be hungry for it. You have to be curious about it. And I kind of... Thank you, by the way, but I lean more, I believe, on my desire to know than... I think that's helped me understand how to do. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, we have a piano here. If the example you just gave,
yep.
If the chord is supposed to sound like this, right? But you play that... something's going to sound kind of off.
Yeah.
And I just played an E natural, and then I continued on, and I added an E flat. So that sticks out. That sounds fine. Why? Because I moved the E flat up to an E natural. So little by little, the more kinds of little happenstances, mistakes, whatever that you have, they just accumulate. And those experiences allow you to kind of create a cache of resolutions, let's say. So some of it might, thank you. I don't want to burst your balloon. I'm glad you're impressed by some of the things I do, but...
Half of them were mistakes that you accidentally meant on purpose?
Yes, that's jazz, right?
Yeah. I think that is such a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
John Clayton. It's quite a living.
It's a living.
I really want to thank you for following this podcast about conversations with friends and being in my expanding circle of friends. And it's not just that it's quite a living, we're all really living quite a life.
Fuck.